Welcome to Building Solid Foundations Radio. I'm your host, Steve Matley. We are on KCAA Radio, 1050 AM, 102.3 FM, 106.5 FM. If you miss a show, catch us on the Building Solid Foundations channel. We're on Roku, we are on Amazon Fire TV, and we are on the Building Solid Foundations app on Android. Or you can always catch us on your favorite podcast platform. Today we're going to talk, I talk a lot about real estate in my shows, as you know, because that's just the world I know and the people I know. But I like to talk about different little niches and aspects of it. And today we're going to talk to a guest who is very familiar with the financial side, with loans, finding money, and more importantly, what intrigues me is she wrote a book called The Road to the American Dream. And this is a book that addresses the astounding lack of personal financial literacy that pervades our culture. And it's something that, having working myself in academia, I see that as a glaring oversight in the entire education system. We do not teach our culture, our children, we do not teach how to manage your own money. So Lolly Hanks is my guest today. Lolly, welcome to Building Solid Foundations.
Thank you. Nice to see you. Thanks for having me today.
Yes, and I know Lolly in the past. I don't know her well, but I know her from the past because she was part of the group called the Finest Women in Real Estate,
Yes,
which the show produces a lot of the shows here on KCAA. And that's where I originally met Lolly. And I've seen her from time to time since then. We also have one thing in common that I don't know if she knows is one of my favorite, and I'm not a huge country fan. I do like all kinds of music, and some of the country music I do like. One of my favorites is a guy that was local and he moved off to Nashville. A guy named
Stephen Cade. He's amazing.
Yeah, actually, on my streaming channels, the Building Solid Foundation channels, he's the only music on there. His videos are up on the channel.
I think he has an amazing voice, just a gift, and I'm so glad they went to Nashville. Great family.
The storytelling and his stories is great. And what I really like, they're catchy tunes. They're not twangy country.
He sounds just like Keith Urban. He really does.
Yeah, he really does. They're catchy tunes. They're not they're country popish more than country twangy. And I like the fact that there's no F-bombs in them. There's
definitely.
Yeah,
he has a very interesting story. You should follow up with him. I could bring him in, interview him.
That'd be great.
Really,
I'd like to have him on the show, actually.
Really cool road to where he's at.
Okay. You know, interesting, when I was in Nashville last summer, I just happened to be arriving in Nashville the day he was going to be doing a gig down in, what is that, Lower Broadway, where it is? AJ's bar down there. And thank you, Southwest Airlines, for delaying my flight. But I got in about 2 hours late, and when I got down there, he had just wrapped his set up. And
I know. It's like Nashville, if I miss my plane, I'm okay. Vegas, I might cry.
Yeah,
you know when you're done.
So I ended up being there on that day and missing his set. So I was there looking for property. I was there for like 3 days, but just missed seeing him there.
Well, more in common than that, I saw your email. It was, coast to coast, right?
That's right.
And so I have a country coast to coast as a platform for musicians, nonprofits and events from, doing different programs to help charities and nonprofits, a lot to do with the program and the financial literacy that we're lacking in schools. Okay. And I raised about $35,000 in 2 years with a couple of concerts, and Stephen was great to perform.
He does a lot of good work. I know he did his Giving Guitars tour and those kind of things.
Yeah, he's doing that now. It's great.
Yeah, it's great. So let's get into this, the Road to American Dream. It says what they forgot to teach you. I don't know that they forgot. I don't know they ever.
Well, they certainly didn't.
and I think to some degree, they can't teach what you don't know.
Sure.
I don't know many financially independent school teachers. I don't know very many financially independent academics, actually. Obviously, if you get to a high enough level in a big enough university, you're going to bring in a pretty good income. Probably mid six figures is my guess. But for everybody else working in academia, they really don't make that much
I was
money.
going to school to be a pediatrician. I quickly downgraded because I didn't want all that debt and time in school. But getting out of several years in college, and I accidentally got into mortgages. But I remember the broker who recruited me said, "I'll know more than 9 out of the 10 people that I speak to," and I knew nothing, so I didn't believe him. But after the first day, I did get 18 loan applications on December 18th, 2001, and I remember it like yesterday. And people don't know, and that's a big part of why the market crashed the way it did in 2006 through 8.
There was a lot of bad policy. Lending policy is what led to that.
Well, that's just one fraction, because people were able to get away with it because people truly didn't know even what to ask.
Yeah, people don't understand that was not a real estate meltdown. that was a lending
Faux pas.
meltdown, is what it was. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah. And
it's a long story.
yeah, I was fortunate that I was given a heads up. My brother worked for IT for one of the major banks at that time that is no longer in existence.
Yeah, they
And,
probably landed on that implodometer.
well, no, they actually went down because they had the president of that bank had offended federal inspector, FDIC, and so when you do that, the bureaucrat decided to make sure the bank paid,
Yes.
and they were forced to sell off all their mortgages at about 95 cents on the dollar. But this happened around, I want to say, 05 or so. So basically, if they hadn't done that, it really saved them, because otherwise they'd be
Oh,
selling
yeah.
a nickel on the dollar.
I mean,
right?
I know a lot of people that got hurt pretty hard. I
Yeah.
consider myself lucky. I think
Yeah.
my loss at the end of the day was $5,000, but there was a lot of quick moving, you
Yeah.
know, to get in front of it, if you will, because that's
Yeah.
considered in front of it.
But yeah, back in 03, 04, he told me, he said, listen, he says, we're being forced by the government, the federal regulators, to give loans to people that should not have loans. And they're doing it as part of the, it was to single women, it was to historically disadvantaged minorities. And he said, there's nothing wrong with that except they can't qualify for the loans. And
Well, I
he said,
mean,
but
it
they're
was
they're
stated.
setting them up for failure.
I think in some circumstances, reduced documentation makes sense, but what they were doing then
No,
didn't.
and they were doing it as kind of an agenda-driven thing. And then, of course, when you take that and you force banks to give people loans that really set them up for failure, then the bank says, well, if that's the program, we can play that game. And then they start giving that to everybody. Now your Walmart greeter's got 6 rental homes.
Well, Fannie and Freddie would charge just a quarter, which,
Yeah.
1 point of a $400,000 loan is $4,000. So 1/4 is $1,000. And to add that to your cost of the loan, $1,000, Nina, no income, no asset, completely blank.
Stated income, just basically, just
And if I didn't have
say,
to chase papers, because that's really the heavy lifting for the
That's right.
borrower, because it's very simple to qualify for a loan, but it doesn't feel simple to gather the documents because people aren't looking at the right lists. They get
right.
overwhelmed.
well, they did away with all of it. And it's basically anybody can walk in and get money just by saying, hi, I have a pulse. Can you
I
give
didn't
me
know how
some
to
money?
calculate a tax return, honestly, for 2 years. I don't know that I knew what a 4506T was for at least 3 years into the business. And, licensing didn't occur until at least 3 to 5 years after me, really being in, because people were doing loans everywhere and I saw it. People were robbing Peter to pay Paul. And I had docs after signed show up, and FedEx called and said, there's nobody here. I'm like, yeah, they were there yesterday. No, there's chairs upside down. And, I have clients thinking the loan's going to fund tomorrow. So it certainly was a rude awakening. I think some things have gotten better. I think many things have been swept under the rug.
Well, I say that the same regulators, that policymakers that were forcing bad loans to start with, that then just grew into everybody getting loans for everything.
Sure, we're holding
Were
the
the
rates
ones
down
that
for
said
years.
that blamed the banks then, and then said, well, we'll come to the rescue and fix you
Yes.
with the bailouts, right? And now some of it has been corrected. It's not as easy to get loans now as it was. It's actually, to some degree, there is a process you have to go through. It's not arduous, but it's work.
No, it is, and it should be there.
Yeah, it
And
should
the
be.
checks and balances are there to protect, the assets that we have, so that we're not
it's-
inflating. And
But it's not just to protect the lender. People understand you got to
It's to
protect the
protect the
borrower,
borrower.
because when
That's
you
your
set
asset.
people up for failure, now you've put them into a home they cannot afford, and you've made their life
that
miserable.
or falsely inflating the value of
and
properties.
they're going to
because-
lose their home. So now they're going to have a problem of losing a home, having completely destroyed credit, not being able to go rent somewhere else because you got to qualify to rent these days. You don't have any cash left in your bank because you spent all your money.
Well, and I want to interject here, because that's the biggest thing that I want people to realize is, when it's your own stuff and things get tight, and face it, right now things are getting tight from multiple directions, right? Or you might have a hardship. I got hit by a car 55 miles an hour head on. Okay. I had COVID twice. So there are times where you can't produce, and whether you're commission or you're employed, eventually, that does catch up to you.
That's right.
So it becomes emotional for people. And for somebody like me, of course, it's emotional just like anybody else. For my finances, I have to carve time out of all the other things I want to do to deal with that. It's not fun, but I'm able to simplify it and talk people through it, take the emotion out, and it isn't as hard as you think. So my biggest advice is, if you feel like that's coming or you don't have 6 to 9 months of reserves, get ahead of that, because you don't want to wait till you're in a hardship and you missed a payment and now you don't qualify, and those lenders would love to take your home and your equity. So I want to encourage people, even just for the learning experience, get approved. You don't have to take the loan. Okay?
That's right.
Have it there. And your loan's normally approved for, 60 days. Yes, you need an appraisal as one of the key factors in the process, but you don't even have to do that right away. Get everything else clear and then talk about it. It doesn't have to be fast or pushy, but stay ahead of it. Be prepared for a hardship.
Well, and one of the problems we had when the downturn came is people were not ready. They were actually very high consumer debt. People were maxed out on their credit cards.
And the banks went,
their equity in their homes, because the equity had gone up, they used it as a source of income to buy sea-doos and vacations and put a swimming pool in.
Credit lines got closed. Banks said no more. I mean, if you had a credit card and you just paid it down, they didn't care. They would
and then
shrink
you had a
it.
high debt basis. You had a car with a high car payment, multiple credit cards, a high mortgage, a second behind it. And then if anything happened, if you happen to be in one of those industries where you got laid off or downsized in any way, shape, or form, or even got moved to part-time, you couldn't service that debt anymore, and you were in debt. And you had the same problem with renters that were in that situation where then you owned rental property that you couldn't afford to support on your own. So renters move out. Now you're toast. You can't get another renter in there. And that was kind of what imploded.
But what we're facing going ahead with the economy in the shape that it's in and the inflation at the rate that it's going, hopefully we can make some moves soon and fix that. I don't know the perfect answer, but we have a lot of seniors, baby boomers, people that maybe their retirement isn't exactly what they had envisioned. And I do want to encourage even seniors to look into, it's called a home equity conversion mortgage. We have it on ameridapt.com, or you can go on our website. But it's amazing for people that maybe their retirement isn't set up the way they thought. I know some seniors that their Social Security income is maybe $800 or $1,500 a month. Property taxes alone in California can be that much, right? So there are answers for those that have at least 50% equity. I do think it's a great program, and it got a bad rap because of the NAGAM loans back in the boom.
Let's follow that up after the break. I got to take a short break. This is Building Solid Foundations Radio on KCAA. My guest is Lolly Hanks. We'll be right back after this.
FireUp Connect is the most innovative business networking group, supporting and collaborating with a dozen of small businesses that are interested in building and establishing strong business connections, hosting educational live seminars while carrying out business and community-driven projects, as well as marketing programs as a part of its membership program. FireUp Connect also offers virtual assistance with a wide range of services including inbound customer support, chat support, appointment setting and email management, graphic designing, video editing, web design and development, social media marketing, e-commerce solution, content writing and much more. For more information, head on over to www.fireupconnect.com. FireUp Connect, helping success stories unfold every day.
This is Steve Matley. Join me every Thursday at 3 p.m. right here on KCAA for Building Solid Foundations Radio Talk Show. I spent decades as a professional construction manager, business owner, real estate developer, and a college educator, and I enjoy learning new things from other people. We talk a lot about real estate, business, and finance, but we cover a diverse range of other topics as well. Some of the topics we've discussed in the past few months include real estate investing, leadership, higher education, ADUs, marketing using technology, multifamily rental property, business strategy, entrepreneurship. You never know who may show up or what they may talk about, so join us right here on KCAA for Building Solid Foundations Radio. Hi, this is Steve Matley. As a construction professional, I know the importance of selecting the right contractor for the job. Power Solar employs only professional installers. Power Solar will provide a knowledgeable consultant to help analyze your current electric bill, identify site placement, and correct solar technology for your home. Contact KCAA Producer at gmail.com for a free financial savings proposal with no obligation, or call 951-551-1350 and ask for Ken. Again, that's KCAA Producer at gmail.com or 951-551-1350 and ask for Ken. Welcome back to Building Solid Foundations Radio. I'm your host, Steve Matley. Today, Lolly Hanks is in the studio with me, and we are talking mortgages, we're talking funding, policy issues, and we're going to be getting into personal financial literacy. And right before the break, and I had to unfortunately cut her off as we went to a commercial, Lolly was sharing with us what seniors can do. So, Lolly, go ahead and finish that thought. You had a place that the seniors could go, a website they could go check?
Yeah, AmeriAdapt. And you can go to lalehanks.com and
Okay.
get in touch with me. But it's called a home equity conversion mortgage. And if you're over 62 and they just reduce
Now,
the
are those
age,
what were known as reverse mortgages?
that is another word for it. But
Okay.
the technical name is home equity conversion mortgage.
Okay.
But it does allow you to never have a payment again as long as you live in the home as your primary residence.
And you get a stipend, right?
You can. It depends on
Right.
how much equity you have in the home. You can also just leave an equity line there. They come in fixed rates and ARMs. It works just like a mortgage, but it does allow you to let your equity, make your payments so that you have a little bit more freedom. And let's face it, financial stress can really shorten our life enjoyment and expectancy. So I've seen this product change people's lives. It is an important product to make a decision with any family that you would be leaving the property to. That's the most important thing because you only have 6 to 12 months after if the person living in the home passes. You have 6 months and with an extension 12 months to refinance it, sell it, or turn it into a different mortgage because this is for primary residents to help seniors enjoy their American dream.
And we have situations where you have seniors that have a home that they purchased. Maybe they bought it in the late 80s, early 90s. They picked it up for $150,000. Now it's appraising out at $750,000.
Or a million or two.
Yeah, and they've got these big equity, but they are struggling cash flow wise every
Yeah, because
month.
they have big tax bills.
Right.
The tax, even though you don't get a full reassessment, your tax property grows, your insurance gets more expensive.
They're eating cornflakes
Your
2 meals a
cost
day.
of living, and just they might have Medi-Cal or whatever, and some people have developed pensions or they've done a great job and didn't have maybe some hardships or setbacks that some people have.
Well, also, if your retirement account is tied up in the stock market, and we've seen what that's done lately, that means you've reduced how much is in there and therefore how much you can pull out.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden your retirement income shrank.
And the nice thing right now,
Dramatically.
especially if you catch a fixed rate, they're around 5 or 6% on the fixed rates. The ARMs can be way more aggressive. But the way properties appreciate on average, certainly no guarantee, but we've been seeing double digits. I hope we don't continue at that rate. I think that's unreasonable for how fast our economic growth is. But, we can probably count on somewhere between 3 and 5%. So the thought is, and why the banks are doing this, is they realize, hey, we're just really treading water.
That's right.
Right? So it's not the most terrible loan. I think people should learn about it. Sometimes families can't support, their parents the way that maybe they hoped or traditional families
Especially
expected.
if there's caregivers involved in medical,
Right.
it gets expensive.
Yeah.
And
Assisted
you want to
living.
keep them in the home as long as possible.
sure.
Yeah, it's shocking the projections of the percentage of the retiring generation, the baby boomers, who are not prepared for retirement.
It's unfortunate, and I think it just comes down. It's not something that you should be emotionally, tormented about. People have just different lives. They might have a loss, they might have a divorce, they might have an accident or a health, crisis that they had to get through, and so it's not. It doesn't have to be,
Right.
so difficult.
When there's
There
others
might
just
be
didn't
others
realize how important it was or when
to
to
be
start.
disciplined or save.
Yeah,
and
you didn't think about it till you
Or nobody
already
taught
were
you.
in your 50s when you should have been doing it in your 20s. And nobody in their 20s wants to think about retirement. That's
But if we
somewhat
would
old
focus
people
on
do.
that more, back to that financial piece, because, the schools, it's great to give everybody a taste. And I'm glad they're bringing more things back into the school like we used to have, like, wood shop and home ec.
In
And
some cases. they
in
are
some
doing that.
cases, because I think it's important to give people a taste of everything because we're all meant to be different. But I think one key piece is I don't know a single person that gets out of high school or college that generally knows how to write a resume, knows the difference between compound interest and, financial debt, home equity and
balance a
mortgage,
checking account.
how to balance a checking account,
Yeah, the
tax
idea
returns
is,
and schedules. Do you know how many adults don't know what I'm talking about when I say, send me your 1040 and schedules?
They don't understand.
Yeah.
No, and then they get themselves in trouble with that.
Or they miss opportunities that they
Yeah.
could be saving because we're not taught those skills. And we often complain that these, big wealthy people do well, but they learn those skills. They learn how to sharpen and use the laws because they are there to sometimes serve. And if you're leaving it on the table, then, that's really on each individual person.
Well, most people don't understand that your W-2 or 1099 income is the most expensive money you'll ever get because it's taxed at the highest rate
Yeah,
possible.
or the advantage of actually putting it in a 401k or a pre-tax shelter, right? So that it can gain interest, but don't lose the opportunity to borrow from that to buy a property because
Self-directed,
yeah.
that's right. Or even do a Roth where you pay the taxes ahead of time, but then you're not paying taxes on the profit you're making
Right.
in that within
And
that
just
IRA.
understanding the tax benefit of mortgage. The beauty is in my job, I mean, yes, there's an amortization table. We don't have to calculate that. We have software these days to do that. But otherwise, understanding if you should refinance or buy or comparing it to rent or own, it is simple multiplication, division, subtraction, and addition. Anybody can get it.
But even the amortization tables, if you understand how that works, that early on in the loan, you are paying interest, only interest, and you get long way into that loan before you're biting off a lot of principal.
Well, one of the
in that
worst
deal.
things that people could do is pay extra to principal on a fixed mortgage. People, these banks put a lot of money to market that biweekly payment. It is the worst thing that anybody can do. And the longer the conversation I have to get this topic through to people are generally the more educated. And it's unfortunate because there are myths out there that are simply harmful to you individually. If you give that money to the bank, even if it's $50 a month extra, you're giving them that money interest-free. And if you need it back in a hardship, they're not going to give it to you. So the best thing to do is to save, have that habit. I love the discipline, but do a biweekly payment yourself. And then at the end of the year, you have an extra payment because now you've paid every 2 weeks half your payment. You've saved 1 month. Put that amount pre-tax on your paycheck into Roth, right? And keep doing that. And then that way you have a nest egg in an emergency. And then eventually you can pay the loan off in full. And that's the only time you should ever pay extra principal on a fixed mortgage. So don't let anybody fall for that.
Right. But the idea is, but that gets into discipline of paying yourself as it's a bill, as if it's
That's
a bill.
why putting it on autopilot.
That's right.
I recommend just getting a separate savings, transferring, especially if you just buy or refi, you normally get a month or two with no payments because your interest is paid through the month and we pay mortgages in the arrears. So right away, just start every 2 weeks, half the payment. It feels better because it's not front loaded on your paycheck or your month, right? It's not all at once, the biggest bill you have. And then have your that payment ACH from that savings account. Again, at the end of the year, you're going to have 1 or 2 payments saved. Look at that amount and make sure you increase your investment to your pre-tax and just keep doing that. But giving it to the bank is the biggest mistake ever.
All right. The other thing I look at is people have their retirement accounts and they assume that the only thing I can do with this is the little list of mutual funds that my employer gave me. And now when you're with an active 401k with an employer, that is what you can do with it. But most people don't stay with the same employer their whole life. That's very rare these days. So when you leave an employer, a lot of people just leave that sitting there. It sits there with that employer.
Unattended, and
nobody's doing anything with it.
Nobody
and
cares.
It's sitting
It's
in
on
those same
autopilot.
mutuals that you picked 5, 6, 8, 10
and
years
luckily
ago.
in the past it's done okay, but
Yeah, but you can now take that and convert it into something like a self-directed retirement account. And with that, you can then invest into other things besides those mutual funds. You can
land
individual
or real
stocks if you
estate,
want.
different
You can do
things.
real estate if you want. You can put, I think, precious metals. You can't, no collectibles, but I think pretty much anything outside of that you can get into.
I work with a lot of veterans. Thank you all for your service. Firefighters, first responders, U.S. Marshals, and I can't tell you how large their TSPs are sometimes. They're very, very disciplined people. I love that. But it's not diversified, and you don't have any control over it. And at the end of the day, we see every day on the news that companies are clearly doing things that aren't always in the best interest of the shareholder, and they're not directing where it's going. So, I highly recommend that, if you are a first responder and you have a large TSP or you're a veteran, get some information on other ways to use it so that you can do much better. I think the VA benefit is truly the veteran's absolute best benefit given to them. And if they use it, they can truly play real life Monopoly.
Right.
So.
Well, and a lot of veterans, I get a lot of veterans through the school, and very few of them actually understand the benefits that they can use. They really don't understand it.
But it's not hard to learn, and that brings me to the book and why I wrote it, because people have the same questions, and I thought someday I would blog or something, and I didn't want to keep typing so much.
Right.
So I started just kind of answering the questions in general, saving it, and then maybe specifically addressing my clients' numbers. And over the years, I just woke up one day and had about 60 articles, and I needed to train people as well how to process the loan my way, because there's A and Z, and every mortgage company gets there just a little bit different. And at this point, I know how to truly educate people where they leave so empowered that they want to talk about you, send their people to you. And so I haven't had to buy leads. I swore I never would after the market crash because I made that mistake back then. So I swore I would never do that again. But the information is not hard if you meet somebody that can explain it. Sad thing is in licensing and real estate and mortgage, you know that what the questions you are asked to get the license has zero to do with what's actually
No bearing.
nothing. I mean,
Most real estate agents, and it's not a knock on agents, it's just that most real estate agents know very little about how to actually make money in real estate.
yeah.
They know the legal issues around listing and selling property. That's what they have to know.
I just remember having to learn how many square feet are in an acre, and just different things, parcels and townships. And sure, it's great to have a little drop in the bucket back there, but that's not really going to serve my client as a financial advisor. So everything I've learned has just been over time, in a way, self-taught. But major aha moments in mortgage, when you're like, oh, because it really, once you understand why and what underwriters ask for this, or why we're looking at title, it is not a complicated thing. You just have to have somebody that's patient enough to truly explain it. And I think people can be empowered by that.
Yeah, and again, it's just educating people. People aren't stupid, but they don't. People also don't usually line up and want to learn about financial information.
But there's horrible rumors, just like
Yeah.
paying extra to principal is a good idea.
That's
It's a
right, yeah.
horrible idea. It should be predatory lending. But the smartest of doctors, and I mean, I'm telling you, the longest conversations, and some people say, well, we'll just have to agree to disagree. And I'm like, well, this isn't really emotional. This is numbers. Numbers don't lie. So let me show you the numbers, because I want you to get this. I'm not going to let this go. So it is a concept that I hope people get.
All right, we're going to take another break. This is Building Solid Foundations Radio. My host is Matley Hanks, and we are on Building Solid Foundations on KCAA. Check lalehhanks.com, LALEHHANKS.com for more information on. We'll be right back after this break.
Fire Up Connect is the most innovative business networking group, supporting and collaborating with a dozen of small businesses that are interested in building and establishing strong business connections, hosting educational live seminars while carrying out business and community-driven projects, as well as marketing programs as a part of its membership program. Fire Up Connect also offers virtual assistance with a wide range of services, including inbound customer support, chat support, appointment setting and email management, graphic designing, video editing, web design and development, social media marketing, e-commerce solution, content writing, and much more. For more information, head on over to www.fireupconnect.com. Fire Up Connect, helping success stories unfold every day.
This is Steve Matley. Join me every Thursday at 3 p.m. right here on KCAA for Building Solid Foundations Radio Talk Show. I spent decades as a professional construction manager, business owner, real estate developer, and a college educator, and I enjoy learning new things from other people. We talk a lot about real estate, business, and finance, but we cover a diverse range of other topics as well. Some of the topics we've discussed in the past few months include real estate investing, leadership, higher education, ADUs, marketing using technology, multifamily rental properties, business strategy, entrepreneurship. You never know who may show up or what they may talk about, so join us right here on KCAA for Building Solid Foundations Radio. Hi, this is Steve Matley. As a construction professional, I know the importance of selecting the right contractor for the job. Power Solar employs only professional installers. Power Solar will provide a knowledgeable consultant to help analyze your current electric bill, identify site placement, and correct solar technology for your home. Contact KCAA Producer at gmail.com for a free financial savings proposal with no obligation, or call 951-551-1350 and ask for Ken. Again, that's KCAA Producer at gmail.com or 951-551-1350 and ask for Ken. Welcome back to Building Solid Foundations Radio. I'm your host, Steve Matley. We are with Matley Hanks in the studio, and we are talking financial literacy, loans, mortgages. And I want to get into the book itself. We've referenced it a few times. It's called The Road to the American Dream, What They Forgot to Teach You. And this is a book that walks through kind of a personal finance 101 for people. And it's basics of how you have to manage the business of your own life, really. And understanding how things really work. So, Lolly, you mentioned this was something that came out of doing different articles and then trying to consolidate them together
Yeah.
into a book.
I would say the simplest way to explain it is these are the most common questions I've had over 20 years from clients because I wanted to not type so much. So self-servingly, I created articles as I went along.
Okay.
And then I broke a few myths. There's a lot of misinformation, again, like we just spoke about the paying extra to principal or letting the bank manage a biweekly payment, not a good idea. And several other things, especially with VA loans, are misunderstood.
Now, most people, I assume, just kind of sign the loan docs based on the package they're handed by the lender. They don't know that anything can be discussed or there's options or different ways to go. Because you mentioned some things in here, tax impound accounts and with your PMI and those things. Is that stuff negotiable when you're getting a mortgage?
I just think they're options. As far as
Okay.
negotiable, the best way to negotiate the best rate is have the highest credit score. So over 760, you're going to reach the best rates on the matrix.
Okay.
It's really just evaluating your credit, your collateral, what compensation are you bringing to the table? How are you going to pay for this? So as far as income, in most cases, it's a make it or break it. You either qualify or you don't. If you're over 45% debt ratio, there might be some adjustments, but everything's just a matrix. And there are ways, if you're working with somebody that will take the time. I have plenty of times where I have a client that's sitting at like 698 credit, or they're at 720 and taking cash out. I can run, once I have a full credit report, it's not me, it's just great software. What if I do this? What if I do that? And I can tell you exactly how to get your score where we want it or where it can potentially be at the moment within 5 days. And so many times we'll evaluate that. Are you at a teetering point where you're going to have a price improvement that is worth, maybe you pay off 10 grand of the debt and then you got up to 740 instead of 700 and now you just saved 12 grand in points, right? So obviously you'd rather pay your debt off, wait a week, save the points. So we can be strategic. There's just all different ways once you've understood how to help somebody properly.
Okay, and what are some of the things you've seen borrowers do that are I would say, shooting themselves in the foot?
Oh gosh, one of them is, not paying attention to your PMI.
Okay, and your PMI is?
Principal mortgage insurance. So initially when you buy a property, if you don't have 20% down, with Fannie and Freddie at least, they're going to want a principal mortgage insurance, a third party that's going to guarantee that portion.
So this is a...
third party insurance.
So it's I guess what you say, a professional cosigner almost. It's kind of like that.
It's just an insurance. So
Yeah.
you're saying, hey, we have our own matrix and we've also underwritten the file and we're going to charge this much because of whatever the risk
But
factors
what they're saying
are.
is you can't make that payment, they'll step in.
Yeah, if
right?
there's a foreclosure, they're just got that little portion.
Right.
And so with a Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac conventional loan, you only have to have it for about 12 months in most cases. You should ask for the PMI rules and guidelines from your bank that's giving you the loan. And after 12 months, pay close attention because you've got appreciation and you're paying your balance down. And as soon as you're at, maybe 78, 80% loan to value, you can petition for that to go away.
Okay, and that's strictly on the loan to value. That is not credit rating related or any of that kind of stuff. Is
Yeah,
that right?
if you have good payment history, some of them might have a clause that if you've missed a payment in 12 months, you got to kind of start that period over.
Okay.
Again, ask for the documents. Each one is case by case, several different PMI companies. But in general, 12 months, under 80%, but you have to ask for it to go away.
Right.
And I have a
Goes
client
forever.
that came to me and, I'm sure many people go to loan officers and say, I want to refi, get rid of my PMI. And I don't know that all loan officers will be honest and tell them, oh, all you got to do is ask for that to go away. And it makes more sense than re-amortizing and refinancing. But let's face it, I would say
they don't
about
get a
half.
commission on a new
They don't
loan,
get to
though.
do the loan. But
Yeah.
I don't do business that way. People think I'm crazy. But that person's like, wow. And then they go tell somebody, and then I get referrals. So I just trust that the right thing will come
No,
back.
I believe doing things the right way, honest way, helping people.
Yeah,
Generally, helping people will pay off.
I have a
in the
client,
long term.
she saved $454 a month, and she probably could have done that 4 years ago.
Wow. Okay. And if somebody would have just told her, yeah, that sort of
Or
thing.
she would
right?
have known, and again, people sign loan documents and they
But
trust
people
it.
don't understand it. There's a big thick thing.
I don't
and
want to read it
nobody-
either. I've
nobody
never read
wants
the
to
whole
read
package.
that.
I promise.
Yeah, nobody wants to read
I've
it.
never read the
and
whole
if they do
package.
read it, they don't understand most of it.
Yes.
Very, very few people have, taken finance classes and those type of things.
Well, I will say
they're not exciting.
the lending estimate and the closing disclosure, those are the two most important pieces, and whether it's locked or floating is huge, okay? Don't be afraid of that document. Page 2 is the most important. And the note. The note's going to tell you just about everything, and then, of course, your deed and how you're vesting, because vesting is very important, and as a mortgage lender, most will not have the experience. I just use charts and tell people to talk to title, but that can be huge because you can retax your property if you add the wrong person to title and somebody doesn't tell you.
And what you mentioned was 3 or 4 things there that most people didn't even know they have. They didn't know they had a note. They didn't know the deed. They didn't know any of those things because they don't even know what they are. And that's where they get a book like yours, or they talk to someone like you that's willing to explain. It's a pretty quick education to explain what it is, but most people don't even know it's there.
Yeah,
so that's why they don't know to correct anything.
And I guarantee that if you think, oh, I'm not ready to buy, that's the best time to learn. So it's not emotional and you're not stressed, and you can have, it's better than social media scrolling. So maybe back off social media for 10 minutes a day and spend it on any type of education so you get closer to it.
Is the rise of social media, because we were promised that when computers came out, we would be more connected, better informed, blah, 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 right? Global thinking and all that kind of stuff.
Double-edged sword for sure.
Yeah, in your mind, has that helped or hurt the education of the general person?
I think it helps overall. I think you have access faster.
Okay.
I think it can be a distraction and very anti-productive, and I think most people aren't emotionally prepared and are able to separate, hey, this is somebody's highlight reel, and I think there's a lot of emotional and social issues that we're creating. But I think it does give you access to more people, more information. So I would never want to take it away completely. Okay. But I would want us to focus on the right things younger, like all that we've talked about.
And so what are some other things that people do that to submarine themselves?
Again, wait too long. that's huge. Make late payments, not go into their 401k and take a self-provided loan, not stay ahead of the emotion.
So that's an interesting thing. So we're kind of taught, don't touch your retirement account, unless you need. So there's a difference between borrowing against your 401k at work and using a self-directed IRA for money and different things like that.
If you're about to have a late on your credit, pay the penalty.
Okay.
Stay ahead. It's not worth what you're going to pay in having that score, diminish and what it does to you emotionally. People carry that stuff with them. Okay. Another mistake is people think things will go away off credit after 7 years, only after they stop reporting. So you got to deal with it one way or the other, whether it be a charge off, a settlement, like whatever you do, it's not going to go away if that bank is still there. If the bank disappears and they stop reporting, it'll fall off eventually. Okay. Ignoring that kind of thing.
Yeah, most of us have been heard that a repo or a bankruptcy will disappear in 7 years.
A big one is small medical collections that you were surprised by that got on credit. Don't pay it until they guarantee they're going to take it off credit, because 9 times out of 10 you had no idea about it, right. And you are supposed to be notified properly. So if you give them money, you no longer have the leverage to get it off credit. And I've seen somebody pay it. It does nothing to the score.
And they assumed when they paid it, it would come off.
And they assumed, or that they paid it, their credit would improve, and right. It doesn't. Sometimes it gets worse because it reactivates whatever that charge-off is, and that zero balance means nothing. It's still already got the negative hit.
Right.
So if you can get them to say, hey, I will pay this. You didn't notify me. I disagree with you not notifying me, or I don't owe this. You owe it. You could fight it. But if you're going to pay it, even if it's reduced, get in writing that it will be deleted and reported as erroneous, because once you give them the money, they will not do that for you.
Okay. And now, as far as credit, we're also told it's the catch-22 of you need to regularly pull your credit report and look at it and scan it. On the other hand, the more you pull it, the worse your credit gets.
I don't think you need to look at it or scan it. I don't think you need to scan it. I think everything comes electronic now, but you should look at it every once in a while.
Look it over. Yeah.
And now most of the credit card companies have things to alert you for free. Okay. I would never bank on that score. Their score is much different. But one of the biggest things is some people use credit for points, and they pay it off monthly, or they pay it off with a bill. That billing date has nothing to do with the date the creditor reports to the bureau. Okay. So you can call that whatever your main credit card is that you use just for living expensive and maybe get some miles or points. Ask them, when do you report to the bureau? They'll know the date. If the person you're talking to doesn't, ask to go higher. Somebody will tell you, and make that your due date. So if you can keep your balance under 30%. Or as low as possible when they report to the bureau, then your score will go higher.
Okay. Now, I also was told by a person I knew in the bank that when you pull a credit score, sometimes it's not the same depending on whether you're looking at getting a mortgage versus, say, getting a car loan. Mm-hmm. That score may not be the same number.
Yeah, I think that the tri-merge that we use for mortgage qualifications just has a deeper history. More information is pulled.
Yeah, because some people they'll get a car loan and they think, oh, what a
Yeah.
great score I have, and then
And
they
they
go
don't
get a
even
car
document
mortgage
income
and
the
they're
same way
shocked that
either.
it's not
Yeah.
anywhere close.
Yeah, it's not kind of the same level of debt. You're looking at a 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 year loan, and you're looking at, a 30-year mortgage. And most people, we do need to make sure the income is consistent for 2 years in the past or going forward, that it would continue for 3 years. So like spousal support, child support, you can use that. But if it stops in a year, that's no longer income that you can use. A big one that I think most people don't know, that's huge for self-employed borrowers, is if you have 5 or more years of self-employment history with Fannie Mae, and Freddie Mac, actually, there's a couple scenarios, but you only need a 1-year tax return.
Okay.
So you don't need a 2-year average if you have more than 5 years.
Okay. Right.
So
we're going to take another break here. So when we come back, I want to shift gears. I want to talk about a couple of your other endeavors because you got a bunch of little irons in the fire. You're a very busy person with a lot of different things going on. Lolly Hanks is my guest. You can check her out at lollyhanks.com, and that, I think, connects to all of her different things she has going on, all the different initiatives that she's working on. This is Building Solid Foundations Radio. I'm your host, Steve Matley, and we will be right back after this break.
FireUp Connect is the most innovative business networking group, supporting and collaborating with a dozen of small businesses that are interested in building and establishing strong business connections, hosting educational live seminars while carrying out business and community-driven projects, as well as marketing programs as a part of its membership program. FireUp Connect also offers virtual assistance with a wide range of services including inbound customer support, chat support, appointment setting and email management, graphic designing, video editing, web design and development, social media marketing, e-commerce solution, content writing and much more. For more information, head on over to www.fireupconnect.com. FireUp Connect, helping success stories unfold every day.
This is Steve Matley. Join me every Thursday at 3 p.m. right here on KCAA for Building Solid Foundations radio talk show. I spent decades as a professional construction manager, business owner, real estate developer, and a college educator, and I enjoy learning new things from other people. We talk a lot about real estate, business, and finance, but we cover a diverse range of other topics as well. Some of the topics we've discussed in the past few months include real estate investing, leadership, higher education, ADUs, marketing using technology, multifamily rental properties, business strategy, entrepreneurship. You never know who may show up or what they may talk about. So join us right here on KCAA for Building Solid Foundations Radio. Hi, this is Steve Matley. As a construction professional, I know the importance of selecting the right contractor for the job. Power Solar employs only professional installers. Power Solar will provide a knowledgeable consultant to help analyze your current electric bill, identify site placement, and correct solar technology for your home. Contact KCAA Producer at gmail.com for a free financial savings proposal with no obligation, or call 951-551-1350 and ask for Ken. Again, that's KCAA Producer at gmail.com or 951-551-1350 and ask for Ken. Welcome back to Building Solid Foundations Radio. I'm your host, Steve Matley. We are on KCAA Radio through all of Southern California, or catches on Roku, Fire TV, Android, or on your favorite podcast platform. We're also on YouTube. Lolly Hanks is my guest today. We've been talking a lot of stuff about finances. You may have heard some terms or documents, concepts that you never knew existed and don't understand at all. So I encourage you, if you want to figure that out, do some homework, do some research, but you can also go to Amazon.com and order Lolly's book, The Road to the American Dream, What They Forgot to Teach You. It's Lolly V. Hanks on Amazon.com, and she has a special deal. If you read this and write up a review, she will send you an autographed copy as a bonus gift. Yeah. So you want to check that out. If you want to learn anything else about Lolly, it's lollyhanks.com. That's L-A-L-E-H Hanks.com. And Lolly, I want to shift gears because you've got some other things that are not necessarily, they are related, but they're different. One of these you mentioned at the top of the broadcast, and that was your Country Coast to Coast. And I know there's education component in there, but there's also country music component in there. So how does all this work? What is it? What does it do? And why are you involved?
Yeah, well, I was inspired to have that because I was offered to have a radio spot for an hour a week. And I was like, wow, I've never thought about that before. And the idea just hit me like a lightning bolt because I had done this concert series for a nonprofit. So that's the education piece, is the nonprofit was, an attachment program and educating youth on those, financial pieces we were discussing. But I love music. I love live music. I wish we had more in San Diego.
The laptop generated music genre is just the worst
I can
thing,
appreciate
that
it,
ever
but
happened
there's
to
just
music,
something about that live,
You got to go to Nashville or
and-
New Orleans or someone like that to get live
Yeah,
music.
if I win the lottery or something takes off here, I might open Music Row in San Diego. But I threw a couple concerts, was offered to have the radio spot, and just the idea of country coast to coast, where music, art, and philanthropy meet.
Okay.
And I just felt like, any nonprofit appreciates artists because they would not be able to raise the money that they do without them. And any artist that ever makes it generally has a cause that speaks to their heart. So I feel like that, full circle is, just a great way to have events and raise money and awareness, but have a good time and everybody loves it. So that's kind of where I came up with the idea. And we've just done a few concerts, and I like to interview the artists and then interview the nonprofits and ask them to nominate, the next nonprofit or artist that has helped them. So someday, if I ever decide to go on an interview spree, that's the way I would do it.
Okay, great. And are all the artists country artists?
No, I just believe in if you live in this country and you play good music, you're today's, country music because it's one of the widest genres and it blends with almost any genre there is out there. I grew up saying I love everything but country music. I grew up on 90s rap.
Okay, the urban stuff, all right.
Oh, yeah. And, every time I tried to listen to country music, it was like, oh, my dog died, oh, my dog died. So
right.
I just wasn't interested and kind of came up with my smart aleck response, and I stand corrected.
Okay. Well, country music also has changed. I remember when I was a kid, and my family took a cross-country trip. We all piled into, my dad bought a motorhome. We piled into it and drove across country. Country back then was very twangy. And there were actually very pronounced regional accents when we talk to people.
Right.
I don't see that now. I travel all over the place now, and there is a little bit of the y'alls here and there, and a little bit of the don't you knows up in the
well, naturally our twang has developed over time.
It's homogenized to a large degree.
Well, and people are able to move easier now, and as time goes on, we have an eclectic community in most places.
Yeah, and I'm also noticing the music industry itself does a lot of crossover stuff with artists that you wouldn't think would be interested in performing with each other do.
Well, my progression was two things. My daughter fell in love with a CD of Johnny Cash, Ring of Fire, when she was 3. So she would say, more, more. She was doing sign language, and I was like, that's way better than Mickey Mouse, so let's go. So I played that over and over and just learned to really love Johnny Cash. And the next one was... I really liked Dave Matthews Band, and then I was kind of introduced to Zach Brown Band and Little Big Town. So it was kind of like this big band kind of music feel that migrated me over there. And my favorite today is Kip Moore. So he's a singer-songwriter, and it just comes across so authentic where when you're not just the performer doing the, dog and pony show, you really feel like the artist. And
That's right.
I'm sure, many artists, we get attached to CDs when the whole CD's good, but you've also bought those albums or CDs and you're like, that was a waste of money. So
there's the one song I like, and everything else is kind of a waste.
Never fail. You'll love every single song, and I would say 99% of the songs that don't get on the radio of his are better than any of the songs that I've gotten on the radio. So highly recommend him.
Okay, and do you have a background in music?
I have amazing air drums. My mom was a single mom, and I was kind of helping her raise my brothers, and I don't know that we had time for that. I learned Mary Had a Little Lamb on the flute and the piano, but I think I'll hang that goal up. Okay. I love to sing with the radio really loud.
Produce other people that'll produce.
Yeah,
the music.
I have about 2 songs: "Happy Birthday" and Santa Baby, but that's about it.
Okay, yeah. See, I've always really, really enjoyed music. Oh, actually, a pretty wide variety of it. But I myself have I played drums in high school in a band. But that was it, because I can't carry a tune to save my life.
Well, I can't remember things. I can't remember the words to a song when the band turns off. So my a cappella memory skills, we're just going to move right past that and enjoy the talents of others. I'm a good poet, so I can write some good music and stuff. But
That's cool. Okay, and it's good to share that. I find it's one of those. it's one of the things that was frustrating me when that was like one of the first things cut by education, right? Oh, this isn't necessary. So we cut the shops, we cut the fine arts, we cut the music, we cut all the stuff that is by the same educators who say that kinesthetic learning is the most effective learning. They cut all the kinesthetic programs, right?
I don't understand any of it. And I don't know why we're trying to get kids to school at 7:30 in the morning either. Adults can barely get up without a big cup of coffee.
A whole different discussion. So,
I don't know that all of it's designed perfectly.
For the kids, probably not. But, there's a lot of different...
I have suggestions. I'll wait till I run for mayor. We'll save them in the pockets.
Exactly. Yeah, that would be a whole different... That's a different show, the politics show. I have my own very strong opinions, but I keep them out of this show.
Well, it shouldn't be politics. So. Education shouldn't be. We should really want our...
Because it's run primarily, the policy is run through the public policy.
Yeah, we'll have to circle back. I have all kinds of stuff I'll unload on you.
So meanwhile, let's focus on educating people on how to handle their personal finances.
Sure.
You want to get The Road to the American Dream by Lolly V. Hanks, What They Forgot to Teach You. It's on Amazon.com. Write a review, get an autographed copy. Go to lollyhanks.com, L-A-L-E-H hanks.com. And don't forget to catch us every Thursday at 3 p.m., Building Solid Foundations Radio right here on KCAA, or catch us on Roku, Fire Up TV, Android, your favorite podcast platform, or even on YouTube. Lolly, thank you for being in the studio with me today. It's a fantastic conversation. I'll have to have you back. We can talk about the other
for sure.
25 subjects we can get into.
One thing I'll interject, if you do, have a chance to buy a book and you write a review and you want to get the copy signed so that you can pay one of them forward, just email team@americachoicemortgage.com and just put Amazon review and then image your review and send me the address you want your book sent to.
All right. With that, we are out of time. Thank you, Lolly. This is Building Solid Foundations on KCAA.
Miss your favorite show? Download the podcast at kcaaradio.com.